Hello again and welcome to the first episode of Let's Make Animation. In these first episodes we're going to draw some storyboards. Now I know I promised to record everything in real time, but I underestimated the length of the recordings. So I'm going to break this episode up into a few parts. Okay, so we're in Photoshop now. I'm using CS6. But the methods I'm using will work in any Photoshop version. Now I haven't planned out the story at all, so I'm drawing whatever comes to mind. This is sped up about twice the normal speed, and you'll see that I'm not really worried about quality of the images. I just want to get something down on the screen. I just want to generate ideas. What I've done here was create a larger canvas, about a 2K canvas, and I'm drawing the background as quickly as possible. But I'm also spending a little more time on the first frame, since I'm not exactly sure what needs to happen. When you're working off a script, it's easier to just get right into the action and start drawing out whatever needs to happen. In our case, I'm exploring different ideas, and the clearer image, the first frame, will help you generate more ideas. I'm happy with the opening shot of the moon, but I'm not sure if the action that you'll see in a minute works well, or at least is the most effective opening for our animation. But that's the wonderful thing about storyboards. We can always go back and explore other ideas and try to finesse things to work as effectively as possible. Right here I'm just drawing in some clouds. I'm actually really procrastinating here because I have absolutely no idea what needs to happen. So now I want to draw in some buildings, and I'm just searching for the horizon line. Now I'm drawing with just a normal hard edge brush, with the pen pressure set in brush size and opacity. Now I draw everything on a separate layer because later on you'll see that we want to move those layers around. So I draw with just a normal black and a hard edge brush, and I create a layer underneath and just add some shading, which you'll see here. Later on you'll see that I get a lot more comfortable with the shades and also the drawings. It takes a while for your hand to warm up to storyboards. Unlike illustrations, storyboards are done very, very quickly. It's almost like writing, but writing in a visual language. You don't want to get caught up with proportions and composition, not at this stage. We can always come back and take a few frames out of the storyboards and polish them to make nice concept art. So a lot of people say, well, I don't want to do storyboards, or I can't do storyboards because I can't draw. And this drawing skill, or at least a fine art skill, is not necessarily needed for storyboards. If you can draw stick figures and draw them in such a way that everybody can understand what's going on, then your storyboards will be successful. Now, before we get too far, let me talk a little bit about layer comps. You'll find the layer comps under the Windows tab, and what it allows you to do is store the status of layers. So I can hide and show different layers and just store them in new layer comps. Uh, then I can just step forward and back and view the different frames of the storyboards. Layer comps does not store what you've drawn, however. So each drawing needs to be on a separate layer. But it does store position. So I can take a frame and move it about on the canvas and store a new layer comp. And when I call up that comp that I've stored, I can step through all of the frames of the storyboard. Now I'm drawing here just a black figure. I kind of like the silhouette against the moon, but I have absolutely no idea what the character looks like, what is going on. So what I'm doing is I'm using motion blur just to indicate the direction of action. You can see there I'm stepping through the layer comps, and it almost looks animated. Now the danger of layer comps is that you tend to want to make it look animated, and you tend to put in so many frames that you slow your productivity down. And this is exactly what was the case in this part of the storyboards, because I had no idea what needs to go in there. I had no idea what the action was. I'm making it up as I'm going. So I'm making a lot more frames of storyboards than is actually necessary. So a very good skill of storyboards is to give the most information with the least amount of frames. Now the inspiration for this animation, or in the storyboards that we're in now, a lot of the inspiration that I got was from characters like Batman and Tron. You'll see later on I'm actually also putting that fluorescent designs into the costume. You can do that in storyboard stage. It's not it's not cast in stone. You can always go back and change it. Whatever you like about the characters or the action or whatever you want to do, put it in. See what it looks like. What I just did there was I went under File, Scripts, and there's a button there called Layer Comps to Files. That allows you to export the layer comps into separate files. So generally when I'm done with a part of the storyboards, I just export it to JPEG files so that I can use that in the editor later on. Now I'm drawing this figure. I'm trying to find a good silhouette. This isn't character design at this stage, but I do want my audience to recognize the figure instantly when they see it on screen. You should be able to color your entire character with a dark shade and still recognize the character for who he or she is. And I just decided, well, drawing a face is not going to work. And I'm looking at reference. I'm thinking Spider-Man, maybe put in some goggles. Goggles kind of work there. I'm going to change it in a minute. As you can see, I'm literally just throwing in lines. I mean, that figure looks horrible. It looks absolutely horrible. If this was an illustration, it would be a poor illustration. But that's not the idea. what we're doing here is not a character design. It's not an illustration. It's finding lines and silhouettes and shapes to make objects read on the screen at this stage. Because this is just storyboards. This is just thumbnail sketches to help us see the action that we have in our head to get that on page. And there I'm kind of finding that figure, especially the shape of the head. Now you should also make the character for your storyboards as simple as possible, because you're gonna redraw that figure over and over and over, and in many different poses. So even though I'm continuing and I'm drawing the storyboards, most likely these storyboards will be thrown out, because what I'm actually doing here is exploring the figure, exploring the shapes, the proportions, everything. I'm exploring what this character will look like if I do storyboards that actually work. But in the same time, I'm trying to tell some action that's going on here. I'm thinking that it's one of those glide suits, and this character is pressing a button on a wristwatch gadget thing, and the entire suit gets sucked in, and it all becomes like a stealth suit or something. This might get thrown out, or we might just refine it. I'm not sure. If you like the idea, and you please leave your comments. Any comments that you have, we'll try to incorporate that. And here I'm seeing that this character works best as maybe a female character. I like this shape of the hourglass figure. And making the eyes of this character white is kind of a neat design, but it also serves to help the character read better on screen. So I can have a completely black screen, and when you see those eyes, you're immediately going to recognize this character as that character, because it belongs to this character and nobody else. I'm adding some shade to it, but overall you can see it's really just a silhouette. Generally, I don't use color in storyboards, but if I want something to really pop out and draw the audience's attention to it, I might use like a dot of color or something, just to draw your eye to that action. In this case, it's the wristwatch thing. But I'm not drawing out the wristwatch, it's just a gesture, kind of just shorthand to remind me that that's what's going on there. And as you can see, I'm putting every single piece of movement I'm putting on a different layer. And I just make a layer underneath and just shade it and merge it down so it's one layer. And in a minute you'll see that I'm storing all those layers in layer comps, because everything is using the same background. I really, really like those eyes. There's something about those glowing eyes. It's kind of mysterious, and I think it's a neat design thing. Here you can see I'm I'm copying from Tron. I'm just drawing a little bit, making a new layer, drawing a little bit, and I'm going to store everything in the layer comp, and then it's going to kind of look like it's spreading. But that's the fun part about storyboards. We can copy Tron. At this stage, we can do that. We can make the design look like Tron. It doesn't mean we're going to use it in the end. It doesn't mean that that's what the character is going to look like. It's a shorthand note to self. Maybe use that. Okay, my time is up. Thanks for watching. Please leave your comments, like, and subscribe. That'll help me out a lot. See you in the next part.